Hello and welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels. We have a very special episode today. It's always special, but this episode we have someone who has a name that is very near and dear to my heart. We will get there in just a second, but my name is Evan, quote, Doc Velo Paul. This is Mike, quote, Dashes Barry. How you doing today, Mike?
Yeah, I'm good. You know, it's another week in the Legion sphere, and I'm ready to hash it out.
Yeah, stuff keeps happening. I keep getting worried that we're gonna get to this is episode 3 of the new season, and I keep getting worried about what are we gonna do when we get to an episode where there's no news. And I guess because we have this run up to Adepticon is that we keep not having to worry about that. So I'm not gonna complain. Anyway, we will be getting to our guests very quickly. Very short Patreon reminder this time. I think these will get shorter and shorter as time goes on because hopefully you'll have heard the spiel by now, and then I can shut up about it more and more. But we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Fifth Trooper. If you just appreciate what we do, or if you check it out and you're interested in the various bonus fixins that we offer for being a part of our Patreon, especially being a part of our Discord, where I very importantly started a TFT Pets channel because now I have the ability to do that. And that was a thing that I hadn't really realized we were missing. So if you want to get in on the TFT Pet picture posting action, that's not something you can do in the Legion Discord. No. You're going to have to come to either ours or literally any of the other Legion Discords, but we're not going to talk about that part. This week on the blog, we have a Bad Batch unit guide for Legion, and also the Ezra Bridger unit guide for Shatterpoint, written by our own Matt Bronson. Okay, we have lots of fun stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about some news. We got some rules drama, and we're going to be drafting turn 1 command cards. That's sort of like a new idea we were bouncing around, and we'll just see how it goes. But first, I'm going to introduce our guests. We have none other than the original Evan of the Fifth Trooper. I am merely a pretender in the presence of this man. That is the one and only, the Raccoon Man, Evan Bulriss. How are
Hey
you, Evan?
guys, how's it going?
Yay! Evan's
You know,
back.
it's funny. This all kind of started when we were in one of the Discords, and it came up. We were both named Evan, and someone's like, "Well, this is going to be complicated." And you're like, "Well, I'm Dark Evan, and he's Good Evan." And then we had that one showdown. This was like four
We
years ago or something, I think,
we
right?
played randomized Legion lists against each other,
Yeah, and you
wasn't it? Isn't
smacked
that
the
what it
hell out of
was?
me. Yeah, you beat me up so good. It was it was very actually. We had
Well,
the Palm versus Raccoon up. It was really
yeah.
very excellent, very
We did a
Was
excellent.
lot of stuff for it.
was this back in the days where Jay was still trying to play Highlander lists and stuff? Was that?
I don't know. So
This
we
this
had
was actually 50, one of the 5280 guys, I think,
yeah.
Viking,
Okay.
made a Legion randomizer, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I don't remember the circumstances. One thing led to another, but we were like, okay, Evan Blores and I are just gonna randomize lists and play them against each other, because it was right in the middle of the pandemic, and it
Yep.
was sort of
Something to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just something to do. But yeah, I got some Rebel Smorgasbord stuff that normally would have been bad, but I think you got stuck with Anakin Lat, and
Oh
this is
yeah.
this is the original Anakin. Keep in
Yeah.
mind, the
It
as
was
in
bad.
didn't get defend one on the 2 pip.
No. Yeah.
That was the worst possible version of it, and yeah, it didn't go super well
It was
for
yeah,
Mr.
we just
Boris.
wanted so we made I made promo cards close to the event, fight cards from boxing, be the Palm versus the Raccoon. We had some good stuff. I wish I could find those again. I was trying to dig through my archive. I don't know what happened to them, but yeah, it's that's how we started. And then with the next time we thought of a good idea. We were at we wanted to do Legion doubles. We just didn't end up having the time. But we're like, all right, we're not gonna talk at all. We're just gonna look at each other and nod when we do stuff. So because we're psychically linked, because all Evans are one hive mind. And so we each play a command card. We wouldn't know what we were playing. We just kind of look and nod like it was all part of the plan. So turn 1 command cards would be a good topic because that would have been a smart thing to probably discuss before we started playing that tournament. But
But
uh,
if we did that, we probably wouldn't have even actually talked about strategy
no,
beforehand. I think we would have
no,
just gone right into it. And yeah, the it's a gimmick within a gimmick since doubles is sort of a gimmick anyway. But
yeah.
it was gonna be that like it was gonna see if maybe we could get the opposing team to crack because if we actually did something well, which was like a 1 out of 10 chance, then they would be like, maybe they can really talk to each other
Yeah,
psychically, which
it
means
was
we're
the same year.
screwed.
Those two gentlemen brought 4 lats, and they wore all the aviation gear, and like I don't know if we would have beat them. They had a good bit, but we were close. I think close second there.
Yep, but yeah, the time flies. That was probably like 4 years ago now at this point.
Yeah.
But you still been playing Legion up in your neck in the woods.
Yeah, actually. I judged the Millennium Games GT that happened a few months ago,
Yeah,
before it got miserably cold. Then I did a small tournament. I played Everwinter, um, and then I got thwomped. But it was a good time. I brought Shadow Collective, and now
Well, you deserved it then.
yeah, I have this problem.
maybe play a
It's
real faction next time, Evan.
Oh, dude, it's like there's a parasite in my brain that just doesn't want me to win. And so it sees the best faction and it goes, what's the worst faction? I'm gonna play that. I'm gonna win with it. And then I get like shocked when I'm like, what do you mean Maul died? I don't understand. 32 Ewoks punched him at once and he just went down. Like, what are the odds?
You didn't
You know,
play Empire though. I mean, that's
no. So that's what I'm doing for Worlds actually. That's my
okay.
to,
You're
to put
adjusting. You're like,
yeah, to put
no,
on that point, it's
Shadow
the pair.
Collect is not rough enough. They have some functional lists. They have some functional units. Move down the tier list a little bit.
No, that's
He's
too good for me. That's a no, thank you. I want to be shocked when I lose like Vader, turn one now. Yeah, I'm running this like so. We won't go into too much to keep it moving, but maybe we'll talk about it later in the cast. I've got this. I think suppression is underutilized, and I'm thinking I have this like turbo suppression list. It's just nothing. I'm not here to kill you, not at all. I'm here to just make you not be able to play with your toys. And I'm hoping it's like in a fighting game when it's called you downloaded the guy, you like get in their mind, you know what they're gonna do, and you make them play into certain things. I want somebody to get just frazzled and just shot like, oh man, I'm failing all my panic checks. Oh, this is going terribly, and I'm just thinking, yes, okay, here we go, time to win. And then I just lose anyway because I'm running like Inquisitors, so they get beat up by like everything, everything bullies Inquisitors.
yeah,
Uh,
they're not super hot. The new Legion 2.6 sphere.
but they got Pierce one. It'll all make up for it when it
That
when
that
it
is more
works.
than zero. Uh,
No,
I
nothing
get,
like 2 hits Pierce 1 for your armor point unit.
I have you now,
What do you mean
ish.
a bunch of stormtroopers punch me to death? That's impossible. I don't get it. Like, but
Uh,
I live to be disappointed by myself. So that's my new gimmick. But yeah, so yeah, I've been playing a little bit. Looking forward to Worlds and just trying to come up with some goofy thing, some new angle, like Vader Lat or back when the double bus triple swoop thing was new. Try to find some weird angle in that I might be able to vector into. Hopefully I get lucky.
yeah,
I don't
you
know,
were you were
man.
kind of a pioneer of what ended up becoming the world's winning list, weren't you?
Yeah, I was I like to think that I won Worlds too. He may have piloted it
I'll sign
and
off on
beat
it.
everybody.
Not
I
even
like to
from
think
the same country.
we shared the victory. It's like I gave him the tools and then he crafted the statue. That's my copium, and not the fact I lost turn one, round one, turn one, and just got like sent home immediately. That's beside the point. I wanted to stand in the sideline to make sure he won. So that's how gracious I am.
You really are a nice guy. You're a class act. That's part of why we brought you on the podcast, was because
Well,
of your
thank you,
character.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Uh, I have a quick question about your suppression list. But before I ask the question, are you how superstitious are you, Evan? I don't think we've necessarily ever talked about this.
Oh, very. Uh,
Okay, I'm probably just not going to ask the question then.
no, do it, please. No, I need to.
Okay, all right. So this is what, by the way, this is what gets interns and residents like really mad at me all the time is when, if I'm on the way out the door and be like, yeah, there's not many patients down there in the ER. It's probably going to be a quiet night for you guys. And then
Oh,
they get so mad.
cursed. Yeah.
But my question for you was if you like, what's going to happen if you run into like a triple decker double aqua droid list where
Oh,
half of
that's
it is
real.
vehicles?
That's
That's the real
real.
thing
Like
right
that's
now.
the I
You're like, not only will they never get suppressed, they'll never get any suppression tokens.
no, they just won't
Can't even
die.
panic
They'll just
them.
nothing. So my fear was either running into that or I played against my old co-host Grammar
Yeah.
on computer and on the computer, like, anyway, a weird way to say that. Anyway, I played him and
We were playing on the
we
computer.
were playing on the computer and I lost. He played I put 5 on Anakin, 5 suppression, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, a couple more and like I've got it. He goes with Anakin, rallies, rolls 5 off, and I'm like, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen in a world. And then he had kept like all of his clones were just rolling the suppression off, so I couldn't keep anything on anything. I'm like, oh my God. I'm just in the copium. I'm like, oh, it's just the dice in the app. The white dice are always hot. This won't happen in real life. So but yeah, I absolutely think I'm kind of screwed. And so I kind of just hope I angle in because Rebels are so popular that people just want to play Rebels, and then like I can kind of take advantage of that two courage.
Sure.
I hope. I need some testing. I'm not super feeling good about it, but I've got Impact with Vader and their Impact 2, those Inquisitors. Maybe I'll deal 1 damage.
Oh, it's Vader and Inquisitors. I mean, Vader can carry any list, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so I'll go to the list real quick. Real 2 seconds. It's Krennic, Op Vader, both Inquisitors. Right now it's 3 Naked Storms, a Death Trooper with the gun, the config, and then 3 ranged troopers with suppressive gun. It's 11x, a lot of suppression, and the backbreaker is to go from a Annihilation Looms into Master of Evil or vice versa to really just make everything kind of shut down. The idea is I can't if your dice are hot on defense and you're having a good run, I'm hoping that I can just make your stuff not score because a panic is static now, right? Like you can
Yeah.
be panicked even if you don't go.
Right.
So I'm thinking, well, maybe with the Op Vader and the 2 Inquisitors, I can bully the commander to either kill him or do something. Hopefully kill him, and then your rest of your army is just suffering on like Courage 2, and then with all that suppression I'm throwing out, hopefully you'll just run out of like you won't be able to score stuff. I don't know if it's gonna work. The Inquisitors have fear plus Inquisitor's training. So they just turn on, they hand out 2. If they throw their saber, it's 3. And so there are some worlds I might like saber throw, move out of like line of sight, then hand out 2 more suppression on something. So they can put out 6 on anything.
Yeah.
And then with Vader dumping Master of Evil, that's another 3. So the idea is I should be able to lock down. Should be able to lock down stuff. I tried it with some Mortars and Shores. Mortars and Shores is just too slow with the range troopers, so I need something I can move. So I put the storms in there. I don't know if it's good, uh, but early tests seem like it's okay. But I also feel like it's such a negative play experience for my opponent. I kind of feel bad because they're like, oh, that's panicked. Your go. So I get to play with my toys. And he goes, panicked, you go. And I'm like, ooh, like, ooh, no, no. Like, this isn't like I joked about, like, getting in the mind and, like, outplaying it, but I also feel like it's kind of brutal. So I don't know. I got to tinker with some more, but that's the current,
Feed
like,
the beast, Boris.
yeah, just, just go.
Accept the
Just,
fact that you're being mean and then just do it.
I just feel so bad. I'm like, I feel bad when I kill units. I'm just like, I'm sorry, man. That was a bad roll,
You're
but
too nice.
Yeah,
dude,
don't
it's a
let morality
curse.
stand in the way of a good time.
I see
Yeah.
someone like doing a move that like is advantage. Good for me. Words failing me. It's been a long day. Sorry. And so he'll do something. I'm like, oh, you sure you want to do that? Because if you do that, I'll get you. And he goes, oh yeah, maybe I'll take that back. I'm like, no, all right. I'd rather crap. So yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know if this is good. Maybe Evan, we'll do another showdown or something, and we could see if this is even.
Yeah.
You can run the double aqua, triple crab.
I mean, that might be what I'm bringing to Worlds anyway, so it
just
would actually work out.
all crabs all the time.
Well, awesome. Yeah. We will definitely be curious about how a like pure suppression list can do. We talked before about how you could just like dodge droids the entire day and then you would be sitting pretty.
Yeah.
It's like I think we were talking on this cast about how you sort of did that when you did Vader Lat, is that you dodged spider droids until you got to top 4 and then it became a problem.
And then it was over like shot 1 of turn 2.
Yeah.
Vader Lat exploded in my deployment, and I'm like, good job, handshakes. All right, I got the rest of my day.
That sucks. I'm sorry.
This is it.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here, Evan. And
thank you for inviting me.
Oh yeah, no problem. We will be moving on to the news section in just a second. I do quickly want to before I forget, we're shouting out a patron that's Malik Jones this week. And also we're going to figure out some kind of a condensing strategy for like the list review, is that we think we're either going to be piling a bunch of those into one episode, or we're going to do separate videos on YouTube, just because we feel like that may be a little bit better for the rhythm of the show. We're still new with these new rewards, so we appreciate everybody's patience, but we are always keeping our ears open, and in case anybody has any feedback about a way that we can make this more worth your patronage. And we do very much appreciate everybody who is contributing anything. We also appreciate if you're here for free. And once again, I'm not checking the receipts.
I am.
Mike is checking the receipts, but I will say that what is free is clicking the subscription button, because of the silly algorithms that YouTube runs. I don't think we're ever gonna be like one of those channels to where we have like the shocked reaction face and other like silly stuff in the front of all of our videos.
That could be arranged.
I know it could be arranged.
Very clear.
What do we have to do?
We're also not going to be putting like 5 ad breaks into our videos. We want this to be an enjoyable experience. That is, by the way, why I added chapter markers last week, which was actually pretty easy to do. So we're going to keep doing it. But yeah, once again, we appreciate everybody. We will move on to the news. There's 2 things in the news. One of them we're going to actually get to at the end of the podcast, because it actually goes with our Minis and Memoriam segment. But first of all, we have some rules drama. You guys have to tell me
rules drama. What is written? What is intended?
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
What do you think?
That was good.
I made that myself.
that was your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
It
was much deeper than I'm like.
Well, you know, I learned how to play around with the bass. Here's one more time.
Rules drama. What is written? What is intended?
Yeah, extra bass.
I like it. I like it.
That is what you're getting out of Notorious Scoundrels season 4, is that kind of high level, man. highly produced content, and it's just for y'all. So we have some rules drama. It came out of nowhere, but there was a forum post that actually, I think the first forum post that set this off was actually like late in 2024, and then it sort of percolated in the rules forum until I wish I could give credit to the person who sort of like first brought this out to the wider world, but the overall item is this idea that we've basically been thinking about the way that immobilized tokens interact with movement in a somewhat incorrect way. This is sort of like, to me, it's hang on, Mike. To me, it sort of feels like the force push, and where you're dropping the box thing from Legacy Legion, and when that changed, is in that this involves like just a forum ruling, and I think you can make arguments I think you can make arguments about the fact that rules as written actually still says that we do it the old way, but um, I'm going to get to what the actual changes now. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Is that immobilized tokens? They, as we know, is each immobilized token will decrease your maximum speed by 1. That much has not changed. It's really the understanding of what quote maximum speed means that has effectively changed now. Maximum speed is actually not specifically defined in the rule book. The way that we had been thinking of it was because you sort of revert to the regular English language when there's not a separate definition, is that a unit speed is the number of red bars they have on the unit card. And therefore, the maximum speed they could go at would be what is the number of red bars, right? Because like a standard Count Dooku can go without any upgrades or whatever, can go speed 2. So we would usually say his maximum speed is 2. And in the past, we would still be saying that if he got, like, let's say 1 immobilized token from Burst of Speed, which may be something that comes up here in a second, is that if Count Dooku uses Burst of Speed on turn X, then by the next turn, he's going to have an immobilized token when he activates. Obviously, he usually wouldn't do this. He would do something else. But the way that we had been playing it was that he could theoretically do a withdraw at the start of the next turn, even though he had 1 immobilized token, because he still is maximum speed 1 in that instance, or at least that's the way we were thinking of it. And we were also thinking that Count Dooku could be forced pushed by some other force user. And the new definition that we're going to have to adjust to is that maximum speed is actually referring to the most that particular movement could be, which is to say that something like a force push or a withdraw is that the maximum speed for those movements is actually 1, which means that if you have even a single immobilized token, whether you are a mortar or a tauntaun, is that you cannot be force pushed and you cannot withdraw. There's also an interaction with this and difficult terrain that gets kind of weird, but I'm not even like that's going to come up relatively seldom, so I don't think we're even going to cover that. But it's those other 2 things that majorly matter. I did a little bit of research, again, highly produced podcast, and I did confirm that this is not a case of it was ruled one way in the rules forum, but that on further discussion with the devs that this is something that's going to change. I've gotten confirmation that this actually represents what the intent of the dev team was when the 2.6 rules were written. It's just that we basically hadn't been playing to that. So all it is to say, it's sort of a buff to immobilized tokens just in general. It's even a buff to giving yourself an immobilized token in a way. Mike, maybe you can sort of tell us why that's the case.
Well, yeah, every time you pop burst of speed, you can't be force pushed anymore. So it's like
yeah,
every force user is now Darth Vader when they burst of speed because they give themselves a mobilized token. Is it a big deal? Force users are not super hot right now unless you're like one of the big 3. So that's probably fine. I don't think it's like inherently an issue there. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. We're gonna have to like take some adjustment to get used to the new rules, but it's definitely not what the rules say. I think that's pretty clear.
I'm with you there. And so like I think this is going to be a situation to where they will change the actual rules to match what it says in the forum a little bit more exactly. Like they would actually need to change, not only maybe add an entry for maximum speed, but they would also need to change entries for a couple other things that refer to a unit's maximum speed rather than a maximum speed like for a movement, which is the way that we're being instructed to think of it now. So yeah, I think there's some rewrites in the future, but either way, like this is it is the law of the land at this point. Evan Bulriss, does this make you think of any fun new jank? That are you gonna maybe try go back to Shadow Collective with mass pike whips?
Mass pike whips and just like lock everything down. So,
Yeah.
it's funny because like there was definitely a time in one of the tournaments where I saw someone force push somebody with an immobilized token that I was judging, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can do that. Why not? I remember there was the weirdest thing about it back with immobilized is back in when Blizzard Force was big. There was a big debate on whether you took Commander Vader or Operative Vader, because with Commander Vader, if you had
We're
an
familiar.
immobilized token, yeah, he couldn't be force pushed because he was
Yeah.
speed 1,
Right.
immobilized went down by 1, so technically he was speed 0. Is
Yep.
how they were interpreting it. So you couldn't do anything. That was kind of like the why you take one over the other.
And yeah,
Uh,
I had mentioned it, but that's the way all of us have been thinking of it this entire time. Is that
yeah,
let's say if Count Dooku instead was hit by a Din Djarin's Amban rifle and took a wound from it, then he would take 2 mobilized tokens. And like if that had happened, we were all on the same page, right? Is that then Dooku's maximum speed would be 0, and
yeah.
then he couldn't be force pushed anymore. But yeah, this sort of extends it out. So anyway, continue. Evan.
I want to piggyback on that real quick because I think that
Sure,
that's important
sure.
because immobilize X is more than 1, like kind of doesn't matter with this new ruling. Like there are some edge cases where it might, but for the most part, immobilize more than 1 implied that it worked the way we thought it did before.
Yeah, because it's weird now that so again, he hasn't had his card updated yet, but the Mandalorian, like the why be immobilized 2? It's because if you're gonna be in melee, you have to be in melee to get bonked by it, right? So 2 seems like overkill unless there becomes a new rule. Like I guess it
Isn't it
stops.
melee to 1 for the attack?
I thought it was just
With
the
the
melee
Amban
attack.
rifle,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's just melee.
yeah, just
Okay.
give him a little taser. I guess there's like if someone has disengage, you go up and you give him a poke, and it's like the only unit I think that can do that is if Boba
It
whipcords you, and then
it would
he.
mean that you could lock down Luke, like
Yeah,
operative
I'm trying
Luke.
to think if there's anything that you could like just. I,
There's not many. There's
The
not many situations where
no,
like
no, it's almost like immobilize is like maybe just say you can't move if you have one, and that removes so much of the confusion about the speeds and who's got what. So it's immobilized if you have one, you're just stuck for a turn, done kind of thing. Because there's like the weird like you can get one from burst of speed, so you can limp along. If for some reason you've got like a force user who bursts into nowhere, not touching anything, you could like limp. You do like speed 1, but like that's bad. Like you're in some trouble if that's your best move, right? Like there's something went terribly wrong. But yeah, it's a weird thing. It's gonna be the worst part about it is until it's in the rule book. If I'm judging an event and then that comes up, I probably won't be able to find the ruling in the forum any sort of time that's because if they say like
you
show
might want to
me.
favorite that
Yeah,
before your
right.
next
Like it's
tournament.
because they
Yeah,
say, "Hey, show me," and I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." Like I want I want transparency. I'm not just making something up. But at one of the tournaments I think post there was like the rule about like when you put you if the unit leader can't see but you put guys around a corner they can still see you can still like shoot. I think it was some weird ruling with that. I think it's a no now, but maybe it's a yes. But it was hard to find, and so no one could find it. Everyone's on their
yeah,
phones looking for it. So I just ruled, yeah, if they're around, they can see, and the guys who can see can still shoot, I guess. In the time it may have been wrong. I'm not sure what the current rule is on that. But it was just like it wasn't in the book. No one could find it in the forum, but everyone recalls hearing something about it. And so what do you do? And I have to make this call that costs someone a game maybe. It's like then I'm like I feel bad if I was wrong. There's a whole like icky feeling about when you can't find a rule that's in the forum somewhere. But yeah, if they could get this in the book as soon as they can, that'd be like super sick. Super sick.
yeah. Uh,
ASAP.
Yeah, like please, because it's just gonna like for most casual players, it won't be a deal. They can like they're at their kitchen table and they can look it up and they've got their laptop up. But like when I'm at a tournament, people are like, you got time, right? Time's ticking, and then you're like scrolling through because they said show me, which is fine. I can absolutely ask me to show you the rule, like that's fine. I don't feel bad about that. But I'm like, no, I swear I was in this forum. Oh my God, like it's like please just you gotta believe me, like it's a so it's like a cool. I wonder. It's like one of those things where was this just assumed that's how we were all playing this whole time?
Well, no, the previous way that we had been thinking about it had actually been ruled as the way that we think about it. Shortly after the CRB change, if you remember that, so that was
Yeah.
like 2.5 years ago. Is that so like when that came out? Shortly after that is when it got clarified, in case it hadn't been clear before. About again, the way we used to think about it is that keep using this example is that Count Dooku cannot be force pushed if he has 2 immobilized tokens. If he has 1, then he still can be force pushed.
Yeah.
And it was ruled that way in January of 2023, which is
Okay.
right after the CRB change.
Okay.
And so, like, I think that nobody had ever like thought to challenge that particular ruling or question it after 2.6 because unless I'm missing something, obviously so many things change is that maybe words change one way or another. But as far as I think Mike and I's reading of it at least is that the right words hadn't yet changed to sort of back this up in the rule book.
And still haven't, to be very clear.
To this point, yes, but again, like the rules forum does supersede the rule book when stuff like this happens. But I think from what I can tell is that at the very least there was some intent for things to now be this way with Legion 2.6, and it was one of those things to where it was still a buried treasure until somebody unburied it, so to speak. So at the end of the day, we're assuming the rules are going to get changed. They like this is again the law of the land, so we all are just going to have to adjust to it. It's not a huge thing, but it is. I think it's like a decent sized thing for burst of speed, in that it gives everybody that Commander Vader sort of bonus of not being force pushable after you dive in there. And then the other, I think that like a tier below that is that it's you think about there's various units that have melee weapons that have immobilize on them or melee / range 1. And I think the place where this matters the most is with Magna Guards because that was a unit that was pretty good anyway. And very importantly, it's a unit that has charge. And unlike, say, the other examples with the immobilizing melee weapons like Din, obviously he's the one relentless turn, or like Cad Bane, he is steady, but if he was going to be smashing with his gauntlets, then first of all, it was immobilized 2 anyway, so this wouldn't have come up. But the Magnas have charge. It's 2 red dice. You're paying 6 points for those 2 things now. I think that before the sort of like the base answer was that the standard like extra guy Magna was still a better buy. I think that now there's more of an argument that you're like, because if they fail to kill the target, then they're safe from shooting for the rest of the turn.
As long as they do a wound.
Yeah, exactly. They usually do. So, like I said, there's other edge cases. The whip
I guess
pikes.
Cad Bane's I'm in control now.
Yeah. So
that's you can hand out a bunch of like ones if you wanted to, like 1 immobilizes, right?
Right, but I think that the context in which this matters, whether it's force push or withdraw, is like if the unit is also engaged with something. And so if they were just units that were sort of sitting around, then it probably doesn't change Cad Bane's 2 pip all that much in terms of like the math of what you do.
Correct.
It does mean that, if he is doing like a rush in there and engages a unit, it does mean that he only needs to give 1 immobilized token to the units he's engaged with in order to hide for the rest of the turn. But I think that's still like an edge case thing.
Okay. I had to read the card real quick. I got kind of excited. At the start and the end of Cad Bane's activation, he may transfer any number of his suppression tokens to any number of trooper units at range 1-2. Each enemy trooper unit gains. I'm like, can I immobilize my guys on purpose?
Oh no.
That was like I was like
That would have been
almost there. I'm
fancy.
like, yeah. Well, I'm saying like that's like the best part about Legion to me is command cards because they spice it up. They do some cool stuff,
It's
and
good hype for
like
a segment later, Evan.
it is, it is. But
Real
like I thought,
professional.
like man, what like a what like a 3-digit IQ play would have been to be like, bam, I immobilized my guy, and you're like, wait, I can't force push him now, and I'm like, ho ho ho, d- yeah, got him. Like then Cad Bane gets like two shot immediately after because dice pools are like 30 dice now. But it's fine. Those two dodges will surely come in handy.
Surely.
It's surely. But I'm like that would have been kind of neat way to like. I really like sometimes you do something negative to yourself to get a sideways bonus. There's not too much of that in Legion. Like new ways to motivate them is like you're hurting your dude, but you get an extra move, right? Like that's a
Yeah,
cool sideways
Ruthless
like
is the same deal.
yeah, I like those kind of things. I feel like it
Yeah.
makes interesting plays. But almost there. We almost got him, Cad Bane. We'll get him
Oh,
next
and
time.
there's Price. Remember, everybody remembers Price, right?
Oh,
You remember that there's actually
Governor
an upgrade
Price?
card for
Go-
Governor Price where
It's a suppression and a name token, right?
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Jeez, I totally forgot. I'm like Price. Oh
Yeah.
no, it
I
rattled my
probably
brain.
jogged the memory of literally the entire community of listeners by even saying the words
To
Governor Price
chunk.
together.
Yeah.
I just like to go on record as knowing exactly what the ability you're referring to did.
That's not Baron Rudor.
Also a true professional, like Gary, everybody.
That's not TIE Pilot. I don't know what that is. Not Hammer.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe when we really run out of things to talk about, is that we'll talk about Governor Price or Hound and Grizzer. Which one is the best? Is a better upgrade for your lats?
uh, that's good. That's actually a good one.
Yeah.
That can
I mean,
be
it's
the
definitely Governor Price, and I don't think it's
I know.
particularly
So,
close.
I'm so mad about the fact that the Star Wars card that has like the closest thing to a dog in it
just like
is
terrible.
bad.
Never sees play. Yeah. And there's some guy who'll win some tournament with it and be like, "See, I told you," but like other than that, just yeah, never see it.
Big gun the Hound and Grizzer matter has.
I also think Price is a lot better now, though maybe not great because there are things that you can target with it that have exemplar.
Oh yeah. So you give it to like just a captain or something, an officer, and then everyone
Price on
gets
De
a name.
Veers or Krennic.
Yeah,
I think it's
Hey,
funny that they even get a
or an
suppression from
Imperial
her.
officer.
They're
yeah.
the governor, and he's like Krennic. He's like, all right, you're bothering me, but I'll take the aim.
Yeah.
That's why I always thought
They don't-
calculate the odds was funny because you get the suppression because it's annoying. Like
Yeah.
they like he's like, oh, take a dodge and an aim, and you're like, shut up, I'm doing
Yeah,
fine.
it's
like,
this wasn't a very good arc of the show.
yeah.
Anything else on the immobilized drama before we move on?
I'm gonna beat the let's move away from the rules forum drum that I haven't beaten in like 6 months. I think it's bad. I think that it needs to be updated to
man.
the rule book ASAP. I haven't, not just this, but just generally. I think the rules forum is a bad place for this sort of thing to live for extended durations, months, sometimes years at a time. Please update the rule book more often. Okay,
You're just telling me that we need to, just like the rules drama drop, is that we need to make some kind of a like sound of smoldering lava drop for whenever Mike Berry drops one of his signature hot takes.
I hate you.
I agree with you. I agree with you in principle. I think that the for me to be good cop here is that it's my understanding that putting up printed PDFs does involve going through extra hoops, or sorry, printable PDFs, like official PDFs is what I mean, is that involves like some extra hoops via LFL or Papa Asmodee or whatever. And, you know, the rate at which you can do that, I think, is less. Like, I agree is that by the time we have the next PDF, whatever it is that I really hope that this is on here and reflected on it. Because that did eventually happen with like that force push, the hostage token example from back in the day.
Yeah.
It took a little while, but it did happen. So The rules forum is a way that you can at least get the message across more quickly, but hopefully it's for a very short amount of time.
Yeah. I think 3 months is like a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
You know, like if we update the rule book once every 3 months with various things from the rules forums, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Anywho.
I mean, yeah, we're probably going to be getting an update. I suspect we're going to get an update very soon after Adepticon because they hinted at the fact that the nature of operatives and commanders is going to be at least one thing that's actually going to change once we get sort of the full dump of the new cards. Who knows what else is going to change? Maybe we'll have a way to find out a little bit more about that soon. That's a little wink teaser about an episode we'll have in a couple weeks. Won't say any more about that. But okay, we will move on to the main star of the show today, which is the turn one command card drafts. Now this was inspired by was it a comment on YouTube, Mike?
It was a comment on YouTube. Yes, absolutely.
Do we have the commenter out so we can give them credit? If not, then
I do have the commenter out. It is EJDLB.
Perfect. Well, thank you, EJDLB, for giving us something interesting to talk about. He was asking about us going over like the various turn one command card plays. And I thought that I had was that maybe we can A, make a fun little game out of it, and B, make sure that we're giving mostly equal time to the at the very least the core factions, but there will be a chance to give Shadow Collective some time too.
Shadow
Don't you
Collective is not a
worry.
faction.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you, sir?
I'm sorry, Evan. You've upgraded from not playing a faction to the worst faction.
Look, there was a time you were known for playing Vader. I will say, you were like
Yeah.
the Vader guy. I think that was
Yeah.
before clones came out. I think.
You hit it right
Yeah,
on the
I think
head.
so. I think that was the time.
You see, Evan. At the time, Vader was the way to cheat in the game, and then
got
they
it.
released these other
Gotcha.
things that cheat, at least at the time, and probably still technically a cheat, just a little bit more effectively. And
Yeah, you won
you
like
know,
a tournament with like a Vader Bosilisk or something like a
I
long
did.
time ago, and I
Yep.
remember that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm like,
new ways to
yeah.
motivate them on Bosk. Actually, pretty fun.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah,
With
just
those little
regen that
feet.
stuff.
Yep.
I like it.
So, fun fact about Bosk. Well, Geonosians, not Geonosians. Geez, what's Bosk? What is his race?
Trandoshan.
Trandoshans. That's it. I got the Geonosians at the end wrong. In Republic Commando, do you know how they got their feet sound? Like when the Geonosians were running around, I did it again. Trandoshans. When Trandoshans were running around, they cut a
No.
pineapple in half, and they put it on metal, and wherever they're doing. And so that's when you hear like when you hear Trandoshans running, it's just pineapples being slapped around on like different surfaces.
That sounds like it would have been so fun to like make that sound.
Yeah, I remember it was just in like the extra the original Republic Commando had like an extra DVD, if I remember, that had like the making of and some
Wow.
cool stuff. And then I just remember, I'll never forget, every time I see Bosk, I just think pineapple feet. So that's a little fun Star Wars trivia you can
That
bring
is
to your
very
local
fun.
game night. There you go.
That hey, you know, Notorious Scoundrels podcast. You never know what you're going to learn, including the fact that Trandoshan feet sounds in Republic Commando specifically were made from the clapping of cut pineapples.
Least viewed episode. Well, I'm sorry ahead of time.
I think it was also funny just the fact that you mentioned just like the very concept of having a director's commentary DVD packaged with a video game is like it's so specific to a fraction of time in human history. It's like, okay, that must be a game that came out between like 2006 and 2010.
It was a big deal
because
to
it
have that
had to have
second
been
flop
like right
in
in
this
there.
case. Yeah, that was a big
because
deal.
like before that they would have never like packaged the DVD in with the game, and then after that the games were like digital anyway, so
Yeah,
they
whatever.
certainly wouldn't bother with that sort of thing.
I'm
wow, that's
old,
amazing.
Evan. I'm so old.
Well, we've all you have the least gray on your face / head out of any of us.
I'll take it.
you're not doing so bad. So what is this game? We're not talking about Trandoshan feet sounds. We are talking about that's for the After Dark episode. We are talking about turn one command card plays, which is to say the game's starting. There ain't no turn zero anymore. Sort of is, but not really. And so you're about to get into it. No one's on the board except for those units that fortunately or unfortunately have prepared positions. They might be there. FD cannons definitely got to be there. Sorry, FDs, but everybody else, it's an empty board, and both you and your opponent are going to be thinking, "What should I do? What should I play? Should I play this one thing that gives my unit a bonus, or should I maybe focus a little bit on priority, or should I focus on order control?" All these things are important. We are going to get into, I think, what each of us value about turn one command card plays as we go through this, so that way it can be a little bit more organic. But basically what we're going to do is that the three of us are going to eventually have basically 5 command cards, one from each major faction, and then one wild card that can be either a neutral or like another faction's command card if you want to double up on something. And then we'll go in snake fashion, and then by the end of it we'll each have 5, and we'll even put up a little poll to see who do you think has the best array, who has the best handful of turn one command card plays by the time we get to the end of this. So from you two, any questions about procedure here? Because you don't want it to run into these things in the middle of the
I do have a question.
Okay.
If we're drafting Empire command cards, can you draft ambush or push or assault or standing orders?
Mike, you saw right to what I considered, not to spoil it too early, but that there may be a trump card in here. But if you're going to draft a neutral command card, that has to be your wild card pick, because the other ones have to have the portrait of somebody either in that faction, or this is a good thing to bring up, is that if it's a mercenary such as Bosk, is that I think we would allow Bosk to be drafted in either CIS or Empire in order to fill your hand up. But if there ain't no portrait, or if the portrait is of a mercenary, then you would have to use your wild card pick for that.
Okay, I have a secondary question based on that criteria.
Sure.
There is a number of command cards that don't fit either of those things, in that, for instance, I think it's covert observation, air support don't have portraits.
Good point. Since those say rebel only or what have you, is that we would package it into those other ones. But the best kind of correct is technically correct, and you are correct, is that those cards do not have portraits.
Right.
But since they are X faction only, is that we would include it in that group.
Third clarification.
Oh man,
because you brought up mercenaries specifically.
Sure.
Ploy, what is it? Aggression or whatever it is. The 2-pip and the 3-pip there. Are we, since that is, are we counting those are mercenary only cards?
Right. So they would have to be wild card picks.
Okay.
And maybe there's a more egalitarian way to do this. You might say that the mercenary factions are getting a little, or sorry, it's not a faction. It
is not a faction.
The mercenary options. Thank you, Mike. The mercenary options are getting a little bit shortchanged, but I think we actually may get into the fact that I don't actually think that is a huge concern at the end of the day. Not to spoil anything, but yeah, they would be wildcard picks. Okay. Evan, good Evan, original Evan. Do you have any questions about point of order?
No, man, I love a good gimmick. I'm ready to go.
Okay. I am now going to be... Mike, had you already randomized the draft order? If not, I can just do it right
I have
now.
not randomized it, no.
Okay, so I'm going to start with our guest. You are going to be number 2. We will draft in snake fashion. So the number 3 will go twice, and then we'll go back around, et cetera, et cetera. And then Mr. Barry, you will be number 1. So I will be the third in the draft order, and so that I'll draft 2 in a row, and then we'll just loop back around until we each have a hand of 5.
Okay.
So with that, I think we are ready to draft. So Mike,
Yep.
what is your number 1 pick? And I already know what it is, but go ahead and tell us.
Oh,
I
are we
think I
not?
know
Are we
what it
not
is.
doing this by faction right now?
No, so you get to. I should have said that. You choose the category.
So
And
I'm choosing a faction.
right. So you're gonna choose the faction or wild card, and then once you've done that, you can't do that faction or wild card again, because
Oh,
like
so
that
you
one's
get your
locked
favorite
in.
out of the way. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought we were all gonna draft like
Oh
Empire.
no, this
like
is
in
more
one.
fun this way.
Yeah. Okay. This actually, I have to think about this a little bit more in that regard. I thought I was gonna be handed a faction, and then
All good. This just shows what an excellent job I did producing this particular podcast episode.
Least viewed episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're really gonna have to put the stupid face in the front of this one if we want people to click on it.
Oh my gosh.
Sure. I'm gonna slam dunk what I think is a pretty easy pick. And that is standing orders.
Yeah. Okay. This is what I was hinting at when I said that there was sort of there is a LeBron James in this draft, in fact, and it was standing orders. So Mike, we should take a second to say, why is standing orders the LeBron James of this draft?
So I think it's important to clarify
Sure.
this. I think it's only, I think, the best play if you are able to achieve requisite order control on the units that you need to on turn 1 without it, which generally means you have multiple sources of direct or HQ uplinks, seize the initiative, coordinate. There are various ways to achieve that. I think that this is also the thing about standing orders that is, like, frankly really incredible in this version of the game is that if you out activate your opponent and you're able to play standing orders on turn 1 because you have orders on the things you need, generally speaking, if your opponent doesn't also have great order control, they're going to have to play something that's not standing orders, which means you're going to get to go without advanced intel even in the picture twice, guaranteed, after they've gone with everything.
Yeah.
Which is actually one of the bigger deals about like the like 14 act separatist lists I've been running. They've got like multiple sources of direct and coordinate and blah 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 blah.
I've really been enjoying that about the Dooku list that I've been running too.
Yeah, you can play standing orders and you're like,
Yep.
I have 6 orders on the board. Aggressive tactics is triggered to its maximum effect, plus like Dooku, the Aquas, Maul, or whatever your focus pieces are all covered. I think that this is harder in factions like Rebels and Empire that have less sources of direct and generally cannot utilize this to the same effect. Though I will note that the Rebel lists that have been good lately tend to have extra sources of specifically turn 1 order control in transports and things of that nature, where they get extra order tokens on the board that allow them to play something like standing orders.
Or they're just putting HQs on all of the sleeper cells.
Or they're putting HQs on all the sleeper cells. Yeah, absolutely. So that is my defense of standing orders. There we are.
No arguments here. On turn 1 specifically, going later is better. Go ahead, Evan.
Okay, so standing orders is picked. I mean, so against me, that always seems to work really well is change of plans. Change of plans is on its face. You're like, well, wouldn't I want to save that for like a later turn where I can, do some trickery? Sure, maybe. But what's really annoying when Vader plays Darkness Descends and you go, no, you don't. Change of plans, and you have to pick something else. Or Anakin goes, I'm the hero of the Clone Wars, and they go, no, you weren't. And he goes, oh, they have to pick something else. So I think it's people don't see it coming, and it feels like when it works for you, it feels like a very 4D chess kind of victory.
Yeah. change of plan is definitely a good one. I think that I I'll be honest with that. I don't play enough Rebels to sort of know what the usual feeling is about whether a turn one. It depends on your opponent, right? About like, do you think you're actually going to get some kind of a significant advantage on turn one by playing change of plans? Because if
Usually, nah, it's more of a fun one. Because you just do it when you know someone's got to play something, right? Like there's a
it was
I
really
don't
good
know.
against Anakin back in the day
Yeah.
when
was.
he had to build up his dang self, and the Han player could just play change of plans, and it would mean that you don't get exemplar until turn two at the soonest, and that was like really annoying. But
I think change of plans into a list that clearly wants to play standing orders turn one is actually quite valuable.
yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah,
because it actually makes them burn a command card and potentially lose one of the two activations that are going after you,
right.
depending on what you can follow it up with.
Yeah. So like against a droid list like the ones we were mentioning, which will very, very often be playing standing orders, is that it's potentially a pretty good play. Now, like to be fair, is that there may be other things that if you think that you're going to expertly sniper shot your way into knowing when Dooku is going to play Fierce Prize Intimidation, for instance, and that you're going to like save your change of plans for that, and that can be significant. Usually the Dooku player will be like, okay, I'll do you, disappoint me instead. Or sometimes double the fall instead, and then like you end up like still in not the best of situations, but yeah, it's that I think that there are certainly plays, and you guys have to remind me is that if the Vader player divulged Darkness Descends to get the infiltrate, is that you cannot change the plans him out of that, right?
I think you can. That
Or
fix something else,
can
right?
you?
It's been I've never actually seen this happen in 2.6.
Yeah, in 2.6, I haven't seen it
my
happen.
understanding though is that you definitely can bounce it back to their hand. It's just
Okay.
a requirement that you play it.
But you play it. Okay,
Yes. It's not a requirement that like if another condition or effect knocks it back to your hand after you played it, you know.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
Because Vader wouldn't get infiltrate yet, or reliable 2. He wouldn't get it because he'd have to walk on. If
he would never get it, right? Like he would get infiltrate if they played Darkness Descends later, but they really wouldn't have a reason to do that, right?
Yeah, so they get kind of like
you would get infiltrate after you're already on the board.
Yeah, because Commander Vader likes infiltrate, and so that's a sad walk. It's a walk of shame up.
Yeah, so that change of plans feels pretty good.
I'm looking at the command card just to clarify.
Yeah, we never want to be
so
this podcast.
Just to be clear, bouncing it back wouldn't have an effect on
that wouldn't change the infiltrate because he would gain infiltrate when you divulge it. Okay. That
my bad.
I just wanted to clarify.
I got really excited. I'm like,
I know. I was thinking is like I probably would have heard of this play being a thing, because there's Han is everywhere, right? And so, it would be like you probably would have heard. Empire players justly complaining about that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking of back in pre 2.6 for that particular situation to be pretty good, and maybe that's even wrong then too. I know I saw it happen once in real time, and it was awesome. But anyway, I still think change plans.
Yeah, I think because of the fact that you can get rid of standing orders is that there's still like a lot of potential.
And you get 3 orders out of the deal too. It's like
yeah, there's other commanders that have like obvious-ish turn one plays, which we're going to be going over. So I think
it's also worth noting that card is just also excellent whenever you need it. Like if it's not good on turn one, it will still be good.
Yeah, it'll be good sometime later. Exactly. Yeah. So it's one of those cards to where like if you're running that character, like you should really be running a change of plans. Okay, so I have 2 picks now.
I see how it is. I see.
Yeah,
I see.
I engineered that random number generator right from the beginning, so I could pick twice in a row. Ha ha ha. I would have loved to have gotten standing orders, but let's see. Rebels is the one where where I think the Pickens are the leanest in my opinion, as far as like clearly good turn one command card plays. Like I like the change of plans. So this other one, I'll now be taking this off the board for two factions at once. Is we do what we do. Is that since Bad Batch can be played in either Rebels or Gar, I am going to take that one because even though it doesn't give you order control on anything more than Bad Batch, is that it certainly creates this situation, especially on a closer deployment map, to where your opponent has to just like deal with the fact that like late in the game, Bad Batch is going to be rushing out there with a bazillion tokens and speed 3 and all that other nastiness to potentially just sort of like delete something with all the mods in the world, and it's pretty darn good. Any thoughts about that one before I move on?
I actually couldn't disagree more.
Really?
This was one that specifically would never have made my list. I have
Interesting.
never played We Do What We Do on turn one and felt happy with the result, with perhaps the exception of a breakthrough game. I find that the speed 3 on that card is so insanely good later in the game that I never would play it turn one. That's just a personal thing. I definitely have found that like the ability to like speed basically Mando move twice and then have a relentless shot allows you to basically move twice, remove something that's contesting a point, and also contest a point yourself that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to. And you can kind of surprise your opponent with it sometimes, with being able to move them like a lot farther than they considered they could go. So yeah, that's my rebuttal there. I don't like it, Evan. I think I burned first pick.
Ouch, controversial.
Yeah.
How about this though? Is that you guys will have to remind me. You can give them Scout one with Wicked, right?
No, Wicked is
because it's a different
Ewok only,
faction.
I
Ewok
believe.
only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there goes that. I do know that. Well, you can give it to the. This isn't Rebel. You can give it to them with Rex, though, can't you?
Rex, it is more defensible. I think We Do What We Do is a somewhat defensible turn one play.
If they've done a Scout 2 on the board, yeah.
If they've specifically got Rex, I still like it better later in the game. Just because I think it's more flexible. But yeah, you're pretty much always going to eat a unit turn one if you've got Rex, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Well, some might say I burned my first pick, but Rebels is I'll be curious about what your Rebel pick is, Mike, because like when I looked through that, I was like, not seeing a ton that really is sort of grabs my eyes, so to speak.
Well,
but
I'll give it a little bit away. My first pick in Rebels has already been selected.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what your backup was then. The other one, to me, this thing we were just talking about, but to me, this feels like actually the most obvious, at least to me, sort of faction specific pick for a turn one command card play, which is Darkness Descends after you've divulged it, because infiltrating Vader in this current environment to where you're putting him like 2 turns worth of moves ahead of where he would normally be to start out with. And then obviously you're going to have that order control on him at least. And so if you're a high enough activation list that your opponent will have sort of shown you where their stuff is going to be, is that then you can send a Vader cruise missile like hurtling towards them, and there's not going to be a ton that they're going to be able to do to stop it on that turn. At least, you know, maybe they've been like saving an AAT or clone commandos to try to get a shot at him, but if he ends up landing next to a stormtrooper that can give backup, then you're not going to do anything with that anyway. It is just a really powerful play. So yeah, Darkness Descends after divulging is going to be my Empire pick. I say after divulging because I mentioned this in the Vader unit guide, is that in previous times we would usually do the reverse, is that we would not divulge Darkness Descends but play a turn one to give him reliable 2. But in this new version of the game, having him ahead
Oh,
is just so much more valuable.
I
And
think
so,
to that point, I think there's an argument for operative Vader that walking on isn't terrible if you think that's if you want the reliable more. But Commander Vader, absolutely. I think
yeah,
he's just too slow, man. Like he's not, man. But yeah, no, you're right. I just with Commander Operative Vader, I've been messing around with not playing the card just to keep it make a not surprise, but like just to fill something up in my hand that I
yeah.
wanted more. But yeah, I think that yeah, no, you're right. I had to double think about that, but uh I had a good thought about Vader and it's just gone now. But yeah, you're
It's a
Opera
solid
Vader.
pick. It's a
Yeah.
solid pick.
Good
Um,
pick.
it's solid. It's solid on power level. I think basically you're
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
you're deciding this character is important and I'm investing in them, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's what you want to do with command cards.
It misses one of the important things about command cards for turn one, which is order control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're just getting Vader, and Empire has the least options out of anybody, if I'm tracking correctly, to like get those extra orders out there.
I mean,
You know, you
if
can
we're counting the Gav and Lat not being a thing, yeah.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the closest they get is that they'll often have HQs on their dewbacks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
will often want to save that until the end so that they know what their charge targets are. Because if you send a dewback out initially, then people are just going to sort of scooch away from it.
Go away from it.
Yeah,
Feels
exactly.
pretty bad.
or you know, if they have snipers, they'll shoot at it, and that's like extra bad. So you want them to go later. But yeah, Darkness Descends. So, Evan, what is? Yeah, go
before we
ahead.
move farther, I do want to just like provide a clarifying statement. Will we do what we do a rebel pick or a republic pick?
That was a rebel pick.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And nobody else can pick that for republic now either.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I see.
And,
He's
and
already
I thought that
manipulating
would
the
be
rules, everybody.
pretty sure that if I had remembered to mention that rule at the beginning, that it wouldn't have changed. But yeah, so that was part of it too, is that I thought that it was maybe a good pick in two different factions, so it seemed extra valuable. But I'll be curious about what yours is instead of that. But Evan, you're first. What is your next pick?
I don't think I've done Empire yet. I think my first one was Rebels.
Yeah,
I'll do
just
Empire.
Rebels so far.
Annihilation Looms.
Yeah.
I like denying actions. Especially against clones, I might not play it one because they all have Courage 2, and odds are they roll off one. It's like a 66%. It's good. It's not terrible for them to roll off one and get two actions, so it feels wasted. But against any army that I see that has a lot of Courage 1 units, like their core, odds are they don't roll off two, and they get denied an action, so they get to move on the board and do nothing. It does hurt you as well. So taking units with disciplined or high courage is good, so you can try to double down on that. Or taking emplacement troopers, they're on the board anyway.
Yeah.
Who cares if they have two suppression, right? But I think the denial is worth more if you build around it. But yeah, Annihilation Looms, my round one pick.
Yeah, you know, it's another interesting one because if you save it until later, is that putting down the
Gets
3
better.
suppression tokens
Yeah.
Can be better. But of course, as you mentioned, you're also giving it to yourself. I do agree that if you have any units with either infiltrate or prepared positions, or obviously Courage 2, is that will lessen the heat that you put on yourself. I think that one of the part of the problem with Empire is that Shores and their buddies, the Mortars, are like probably the weakest of the core choices right now, which means that if you're like using an army that has a lot of prepared positions, that to where you're not going to be as hurt by Annihilation Looms, is that you're potentially shortchanging yourself in terms of like the actual units that are making up the army. But it can be really solid in the right circumstance. Like, the rebel players that, if they have a bunch of fleet troopers, they're gonna be really sad about Annihilation Looms.
Yeah.
And I think like an Ewok player is gonna be extra sad, because then like they have to be doing something on their rally rolls, or else that courage is not even going to be coming off at the end of the turn. So you might be
that's brutal. Yeah.
suppressing them into the next turn also, is that it can be pretty rough for them. And then the extra funny thing is, I don't think I ever heard what came out of this, but it was the concept of if there's two Krennic players that both play it on turn
Oh, yeah.
one, and like which gets you to the point that if there's no like if either side doesn't have Vader or something, that units could panic before they even like get onto the board.
Yeah, there's a world where
Uh,
they both play it, and then through some terrible rolls, like nothing could enter the battlefield turn one. It could just be two armies just
Yeah.
waiting outside the
I
battlefield.
think what happens is that if that unit panics, it just doesn't deploy until turn two.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy in and of itself. Yeah, but I think it's one to where you would modify choosing that based on what your opponent is, and I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Mike, you now have two picks.
Man, you
so
guys really
enough griping
teed
out of
me
you.
up for this because
okay.
you guys have both picked your Rebel card and your
Yeah, that's
Empire
true.
card.
Yeah, we've
which
been
means
avoiding the
I
people
can
so
first
far.
pick Separatists and Republic and then pick whatever I want for the other
Yeah.
two factions.
Yep.
So here
we
go.
didn't do a good job at gamesmanship. Evan
No, we
Bulriss.
can't let you have this one. This is
So yeah, I'm gonna start with Separatists. I actually feel like I already picked the best Separatist card, which is Standing Orders.
Yep, fair.
So I actually think Separatists don't have a lot of great options turn one for command cards outside of Standing Orders.
I agree.
But I'm gonna pick what I think is the second best one, and that is Orbital Strike. And Orbital Strike is obviously their 2-pip generic. Basically what you're giving up here, it's basically like playing Standing Orders, except you're giving up probably one activation after your opponent goes to throw a bunch of dice at them for sure. And I think depending on the list you're playing, that might be more valuable. You're generally going to have 5 or 6 orders, even with, because it hands out the same amount of orders as Standing Orders does. It'll be fine. But I think one of the problem is maybe not the right word, but one of the things Separatists has going against it is that a lot of their command cards are very splashy on most of their units, and you want to play them later in the game.
Yeah.
So,
and with the new cover rules too, your odds of getting you can get 4 hits.
Yes.
I had one of the game I was playing against my friend. He did the clone version of this, and I'm used to doing nothing. 1, nothing, and now it's 3, 2, 3, and I'm so it might kill something too, like a little 4-man squad of rebels or something.
For sure.
Do you guys think it's funny that both Leia's orbital bombardment and orbital strike from the generic sys, that those both represent capital starships raining fire on the ground,
dice.
but neither of them have impact.
Yeah. That's good too. Yeah.
But that a log hurtling from a tree has impact 1 Pierce 1. Or is it impact like 3 or something? I think it's
a lot more than that. Yeah.
So
it's
yeah,
the only impact that list has other than ATST.
Exactly. Yeah, I've always thought that was funny about, especially like if you've played Battlefront, is that
those
like
are
when that stuff came
devastating,
down, if somebody threw that on top of an ATST, is that it would go down if Leia threw her thing on top of that. So. Oh well, you can't have everything. Maybe maybe this is one of those things that you have to just like chalk it up to the fact that we're playing a silly game with plastic toys sometimes.
Never.
Mike, what's your other pick?
Yeah, so my other pick is going to be Republic because I am going to gamesmanship as much as I can.
Of course you are.
Yep, that's me. So I'm going to reset the clock from 1 to 0 and say that this is the best command card you could play on turn 1. I actually think it's sometimes much better later in the game, but the unit it's attached to, we're not going to worry about.
You could do it again.
We're not going to
if you
worry.
want to. Some might say.
We're not going to worry about it. But the answer is Luminous Beings are we. It gives you full order control. It protects all your guys. Should they need it. Very powerful on a scenario like Breakthrough. I think full order control is obviously like kind of perfect situation for turn
Yeah.
one. You kind of that's where you would like to be in an optimal situation. It's a 3-pip, which is also makes it so that you're hopefully rolling off to go last.
Yeah.
Ideally. So yeah, that is my Republic pick.
Mike, if we're truly going to reset the clock, is that you actually need to complain about Yoda in some way? Because you've only said good things so far.
I mean, it's attached to a bad unit. I don't know.
Okay, there you go.
There
Reset
it
the
is.
clock.
I didn't really feel the heat in that one, but I get it.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
I feel
know.
like that's a horse that I've just beaten to death at this point. So
Oh yeah, it's
It is what
it's
it is.
basically a skeleton now.
Yeah.
But we're still gonna we're still beating it. We'll see. Maybe someday that clock will get to 2. But
his
it is not
command
this
cards,
day.
his command cards are still sweet.
Yeah.
You know.
As two pip is a little less sweet now. Reset the clock again. But you know, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a good pick. That was number 1 on my list as well. So good on you. I'll also say an excellent turn 1 play for a Yoda Wookiee list because having full order control on everything, including very importantly your 3 fluttercraft, which had better be on that list. That's a shout out / warning to those Wookiee players who wouldn't include them, by the way. Is that it can be super helpful to have that control. Okay, Evan Bulriss, what is your next pick? You've done Rebels and Empire.
Yep.
As we mentioned before, bad games was up on us because now Mike
Yeah,
just snatched up both the good prequel picks.
I mean, there's we got a couple. So I'm gonna hit We Serve the Queen. We Serve the Queen for my CIS pick. It's if you want to do Geonosian heavy lists, and you want
And
to do
remind me, is
less.
that the token coordinate one or is that
Yes,
the
yes,
search for
that's
crit
the.
one?
I'm sorry. Yeah. That's the token coordinate.
Okay, got it.
They get direct so they can pass, so they become bots for
Yeah.
clankas for a bit. So I think Geonosians are really cool. They're a fun unit. It's tough to make arguments to take them sometimes because of how efficient all the B1s are with each other into B2s or wherever you want to go. But it's just a fun beginning card. Better now in 2.6 actually because you can do it on turn 1. They're all next to you. You don't have to kind of do weird
Yeah,
spacing
you
to
get
try
the
to make
full
them hit.
coordinate chain every time.
Yeah, so you could you could take like this card and attack droid, and you can have all orders on all your robots, all orders on all your Geonosians. So you just you could have that kind of full order control if you wanted it. But plus, it's PogChamp, so he's cool. So that's my pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
definitely think. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was gonna say before this card, and even after turn 1, I think this card suffers from some timing issues.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they don't actually get the tokens until they activate. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
it's actually worse. Yeah, it's worse than it sounds.
Yeah, it would be different, I think, if they just like got them immediately.
Mm.
But because of that, I actually think that this is a pretty good turn 1 play, particularly if you're playing Geonosians. You're likely to have full order control or close to it, which you normally would not have with Geonosians.
Right.
And so I do think there is value in that. But you obviously have to kind of be all in on Geonosians for this card to be good.
Yeah.
But like the fact that you're doing it on deploy, it means that at the very least the dodge token, you're never going to be in a situation to where they get shot before you activate the unit and therefore they don't get to use their dodge token. Is that if they're going to get shot, they're going to have that dodge token because they're unshootable before they activate.
Yeah.
So even though it's very unlikely they're going to be making use out of those aim tokens unless it's a breakthrough situation where people are rushing you. It can happen for sure.
Yeah.
This is definitely like the best turn 1 card for a Geonosian list on breakthrough ever.
Oh yeah, for breakthrough, it would be really scary, and it would put your opponent in a place to where they're going to be way more squeamish than is ever going to be good for them on breakthrough, and they're going to they may have to put up a standby castle that you're just going to choose not to trigger, but instead you get to move your guys where you actually want them to move, and they'll have essentially wasted an action on a standby to at least prevent their own demise from a Geonosian super squad. So yeah, I like that. It's a really good pick. Okay, I have 2 more picks now. I think my wild card was definitely going to be standing orders, and nothing else in that category is is sort of cheering at me right now, so I'm probably now going to put it at the end. So with the Republic, now that Luminous Beings is taken, is that I'm probably going to go with We're Not Programmed, just because
Yeah.
that it's for clone troopers, and an important part of this, like it can actually be helpful these days, especially, is that Inspire was changed from a beginning of activation trigger to an end of activation trigger. I think like the new way that turn 1 is done is like the main reason of why they changed Inspire. And so that means that Rex is usually going to be coming out last. And so if you've put out a couple arc squads or whatever, and they've like gotten plinked at a couple times, maybe if your opponent, as one usually should, is concentrating on one squad in particular, so you use up their own tokens, and then they're going to have to share one token per shot every time, which means that they'll build up suppression tokens, is that you can at the very least get rid of that. You're not going to be getting any use out of the Rex recovers part, but honestly, these days, that part is one of the less important parts about the card anyway. The important part is that you get a couple extra surge tokens so that if you're running out, you can bust out Rex if you like need some more backup. But more importantly, it orders 4 clone troopers, and that can be extremely useful in terms of having order control of that. If you're not running 5s in a generic commander, which is like decent but not always the best economic choice, is that you're usually missing out on that level of like superior order control in your list. So yeah, I'm gonna go with We're Not Programmed for the Republic. And then for CIS, I'm gonna take one that can be necessary in sort of a negative way, but it is still often necessary if you're running a particular unit in your list, which is at last. Because if you're going to be infiltrating with Maul, which you would have done from divulging the card that you don't actually have to play, and if you think that any kind of a play to where you're going to be like rushing in there to get engaged with an enemy who got up a little bit too far, and then maybe even do an attack, is that if you want to do that stuff, you need your 3 actions to do that. Sis doesn't get to cheat like Shadow Collective by having a Maul that comes in pre-wounded because he lost his legs or whatever he's griping about. And so you have to be more strategic about it. Any Sis player that has ever like gone through the trauma of a game to where they're saving at last because they don't want to they want to use their commands on something else, and then their opponent just ignores Maul and doesn't shoot at him, and then you're like stuck with the bad Jedi. Once you've had that experience, you don't forget about it. And so even though obviously it only matters for a Maul list, is that the necessity of playing it last at the beginning of the game is why that's going to be my pick.
That's good.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, not bad. So I'm looking through the Gar cards and I'm sad.
I think
So
you
I'm
got
gonna
kind of
pick
slim
one.
pickings now.
Yeah, well, cause there's like, do I take the easy softball of diplomatic cover? And it's like, well, you have to play it. It's
Is
my
that an
pick
easy
because
softball, Evan?
you have to. It's like, I guess, I don't know. Like,
Okay, but if you do that, it means you're playing Padme,
so look,
right? And maybe you could argue, maybe you could throw the logic I literally just used back in my face, is that, well, Alas is obviously only good if it's only necessary if you're playing Maul, but Maul
true.
can be good in Sis, and Padme is Padme. Anyway, go ahead. I'm
Man,
sorry.
I remember the days when it was Anakin Padme, and I'm like, oh no, Annie Padme again.
Yes.
I'm so mad. Now yeah, I'm kind of shocked. Secret Mission still good. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't play those. I haven't played Rebels in a while, so I guess I don't know.
So this is a good secret
No,
mission segue
yeah,
for
hit me. Yeah.
So secret mission now requires you to be in the enemy zone at the start of a turn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
So which means that you have to be in the enemy deployment zone no later then the end of turn 4, and that assumes that there's a turn 5.
Oh yeah, because they can just. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's funny. Oh
no
man.
longer does it ask for a touchdown. It asks for a super touchdown to where
Yes.
you were actually present in the end zone before the play started. It's a time bending touchdown.
Not only that, you have to be in the zone at the start of a turn and survive.
And then live. Yeah, yeah.
That makes bounty seem a lot better, huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
just
by comparison, sure.
Yeah.
I think both of them took a hit because it's a 12 VP game with progressive scoring, which means that one VP matters less often than it used to.
Yeah.
It was like it was sort of like back in the day, if you had like a high axe squad against a low axe squad in breakthrough, it was relatively unlikely that bounty or secret mission was going to like sway the way that game went.
Yeah.
Compared to something like hostage exchange, where it could be like literally everything.
Yeah.
And so now that like zone of scoring has broadened, and also the difficulty that Mike talked about, plus the fact that you're being asked to include one of two units that is not very good at fighting. They made Padme better at fighting, but not like enough better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that you're like spending points on that, and also that you're devoting attention to running towards that end zone instead of actually like contesting POIs, which because there could be a lot of situations to where you activate Padme and you're looking at the board and you're like, okay, well, I can either like go over to this POI to like blow up a bunker and score 2 points, or I could get into the opponent's territory and maybe score the 1 point if I live at the end of the next turn. Obviously, there's some situations where like both those are going to be true depending on how the board is, but if you're trying to score that touchdown, then it takes your attention away from a lot of like what the point of the game is in terms of like how you score points. And so that's why I feel like Secret Mission is kind of rough right now.
I feel like I stepped on a landmine here.
Yeah,
I feel like,
a little bit.
I heard the click, and then I just said, "We're not going to defuse it. Everyone, just go away." And then I'll sing when you stop hearing my voice. I'll just like.
But you haven't stepped on it, right? You were just talking about how you feel like diplomatic cover is an obvious choice, but Mike and I immediately jumped in there we're like, no, don't walk in that mine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I appreciate it. Well, okay. To me, an even softer softball. Where's our air support? There we go. Something shooting infinite range. Last thing you do is pretty good. Beam good. Yeah. Also, cover. Who cares? So you're probably getting 2 to 3 each shot. That's my TED talk on air support. It's pretty
if
good.
It's Rex, which it probably should be, if that card is anywhere near your command hand, is that would mean that you have 3 of your own aims plus a shareable one. So
and
like
to crit,
with surge
right?
crit and also the change to cover is that like from a raw dice perspective is that air support is like significantly better attack than it was before.
Yep.
And so yeah, like it's a solid pick. You're not always going to have sort of like the lineup of targets that you want.
No,
but honestly, like even if you mostly just like want to have the chance to do 3 wounds against like an ATRT, and that's the main thing you want to accomplish, is like you're gonna have 4 aims so you can spend all day re-rolling a surge to crit guy, and you can, it's sort of like a tiny version of the Bossk laying in wait experience at that point.
Yes.
That you're often going to be able to get what you're looking for. So yeah, I think that's a good pick. It's good. It's still a good play.
It's after I was about to touch the hot plate and I heard my 2 parents scream at me. I'm like, oh
no.
And I'm like I go for like this ice cream bar and like, yeah, all right.
That plate has Padme on it.
Oh no. So all right, air support. Thank you.
All right, I like it, Mike. So this is now your last pick, and then it'll be after that the last pick for both of. Or no, you're gonna have 2 more picks.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with the easy one. It's actually, funnily enough, if I were to have first picked Empire, my card is still available to me. I'm gonna take an entire Legion. And
Yep.
I know that people bash on this card because
But
it's
it's just a bad
Yoda's
version of
card without the
Luminous.
tokens. But I do think it is the best Empire turn 1 card because they have a very difficult time getting order control, and turn 1 is insanely important. They've got a lot of units that really care about when they go, specifically on turn 1, because they have access to Exemplar now. This allows you to get your Exemplar units out there, start putting aim tokens down, and kind of like prepping for the rest of the squads to get there. Does it require you to take Palpatine in a version of the game that he's not super great in? Yeah. I mean, but that's a way that Luminous Beings and Entire Legion are similar, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Fair.
but yeah, I do think it's the best turn 1 Empire card because it's slow and gives all your dudes things. To follow that up with Rebels, I'm also going to be pretty generic. I am going to pick Somebody Has to Save Our Skins, mainly because it hands out basically the maximum amount of orders Rebels can give out on turn 1, I think. And I think it's attached to the hero that is the most commonly used, and it's the one that the effect that I'm okay with wasting on turn 1. I think one of the problems with Rebel command cards on turn 1 is often their effects are very, very good. And I think that if, for instance, I play Change of Plans on turn 1 and I use the discard effect, this is probably the second card I'm playing. So that is how I feel about that.
That's fair. I think it's funny with like Blizzard Force, and then you take, because that's one of the old cards that just said issued orders and not like specifically buy this card, I think. Oh, no, I'm thinking of No Time for Sorrows. My bad.
Yes.
Back up.
Yep.
It's been a while since I even remembered what her third card did. Because I like every time I play her, I just
you can treat that card as blank.
Yeah, so I just always
it is a
assume she's
Rebel
talking about-
specific version of assaults.
I always just assume everyone's always talking about No Time for Sorrows at all ever when they talk about Leia on a command card. So I'm like, wait a minute.
I do think that is a testament to the fact that I think that the Rebels actually maybe have the slimmest pickings as far as like good faction specific turn 1 plays. Is that like there's a fair number of Rebel lists where if they don't have Leia, then the actual answer can be assault in terms of what the best turn 1 play is. If you don't have like that HQ uplink control on your sleepers or what have you, is that, you know, you still maybe will lose priority, which is usually what you want to do, but you get 3 orders out, and there's like relatively few Rebel specific orders out there that will even get 3 out at all.
And you really need it too, because Rebel lists these days are not only running 2 sleeper cells, they're running, you know, Luke, Din, you know, Han, or whatever your combo is, right? You've got like 4 or 5 units that in the previous iteration of the game we would call like focus pieces. And you really need to, you cannot afford to not have orders on them. So
I think the best argument I can make is that if you have Leia and Luke, then Return of the Jedi is like slightly better because Luke gets a dodge token. But like, how often is that actually going to even matter on turn 1 anyway?
That's the thing, right? He's got block, I guess. If you're playing Commander,
if it's Commander Luke,
but
then you're wasting his Inspire effect, like the super Inspire effect, I should say, from that card. Because like he gives it out at the beginning as activation, and if it's turn 1, there's not going to be any suppressed, unless if your opponent. Okay, I'm going to back up. If your opponent played Annihilation Looms, then you play Return of the Jedi. That's like the true 5-dimensional chess move, because you'll be able to take suppression tokens off of your deployment zone before they actually go out there.
You're playing against Evan Bulriss.
Imagine.
Imagine you just pulled one over on Evan, and he is shocked and appalled.
Okay. I think that's legit. And again, I think it's testament to Rebel's relative lack of good faction-specific choices for turn 1 plays. But okay, it's just down to us, Evan. We have our wild cards left because Mike took the good one. What is your wild card choice? And again, this can be generic or any faction that we've already gone over, by the way.
yeah, I still think just because it's what he is, sees what power we can, with Maul. So I really like to say His Eminence and just play nothing but capo pike lists. So His Eminence will give everybody a suppression token. So
Yeah.
all of your pikes can come out with each danger sense 1 with 2 courage and like skedaddle. So that's pretty funny. I don't
That
think
was
it's
the
very
turn
good.
one play back in the day that mass pike lists, or it was a pretty good turn one play when mass pike lists were out there.
Yeah.
There were still a lot of snipers out there and what have you. So it would make, like, if you had capos in every unit, then you wouldn't really care all that much, and it would actually put you at an advantage to get all the
Yeah.
suppression tokens. Yeah.
I do think that's funny. But I do like seize with power we can.
Yeah.
I like it because most scum lists are playing buses, and buses can pretty reliably move, shoot, if they want, and like that extra aim in the surges really help that out to make that hurt if you want to. I think it's pretty good for that. Bus is 3 orders, and sometimes you got to make sure the bus, you don't have to. Sometimes you don't want to spend the points for different things to get HQ or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's okay. It's
It
like
saves you 20 points in HQ uplink if you want order control on Maul and the buses.
yeah, like problem with them, it's like I have the same issue where like I don't want to play any of Maul's cars because they're also good. So that's like my throwaway. Like I guess turn 1.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a really solid pick. Not one I would have thought of. So yeah, that's good on you for that. Okay.
Dig in the trash can.
I got one pick left. It is certainly not going to be a Rebel or Gar card because I think that those have been picked relatively clean.
There's definitely one in Republic that I'm really surprised has not been selected yet.
Oh, interesting. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to waste time on the cast thinking about it. I'll be curious about what you say. But I think that maybe this is like so quote unquote big brained that it's actually not a good play. But this is gonna make it clear that I have not personally played this character a ton myself, but it seems like there's certain situations to where playing Give Into Your Anger turn 1 is a ripe opportunity. If you have a list with a lot of long range and you want to force them into either like hiding in such a way that character or unit would not typically want to hide, or like risk like getting themselves out there to get shot, and you're also going to be giving them functionally 3 suppression tokens going into the next turn. It seems like there's situations to where that would be helpful. Now, some might say that an entire legion is like always going to be better than that. But I mostly was just thinking about the fact that tactical strike, which is sort of like the other main thing that I thought of, it doesn't seem like
backup.
Yeah,
Sure,
like
yeah.
it's probably still technically the right pick, but I thought that the potential for a big brained turn 1 Give Into Your Anger to make your opponents deploy something earlier than they would want to, and then also have 3 suppression on that thing. It seemed like it may be something that's good sometimes. It seemed fun. Probably more fun than good. Maybe I've like already given up since Mike got standing orders, and that I've just been trying to play for funsies after that. What do you guys think about that pick, though?
I'm trying to imagine a situation where, I mean, I definitely think that if your opponent has a pretty great focus piece turn 1, you can do some gnarly things with this. Like if they have Bad Batch, being like, yeah, go first with Bad Batch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The thing that and I'm not saying that's not powerful, because it clearly is a powerful effect.
Right.
I do think, though, that being able to play this card once you're engaged
in the fight, yeah, exactly,
is just so much more powerful. I'm not saying it's not powerful on turn 1. I think that it's marginally powerful compared to what it can be later.
I can see, especially like as a round like if you're foreseeing yourself doing the rush to lightning everybody and then die on like round 3, then I could see to where starting with entire legion and then playing Give Into Your Anger round 2,
Yep.
so that like, you know, round 2 is typically the round to where you're sort of like first bumping into each other, and then that way also something like Bad Batch, for instance, or especially if they have like a charge only character, is that if you make them go first with their charge only character, then that is going to make them really really sad.
They're
If it's
either not
round
going to
2.
do anything, or they're going
Yeah,
to put it in a
or they're
place
going
where
to
you're
put
going to
themselves at
kill it.
risk. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're right.
I do think I do want to just like call this out, because I
Yeah.
actually think that this to me is like one of the dichotomies of changing from the old version of Legion to the
Sure.
new version of Legion. And then I think there are a lot of cards that fit this sort of category where it's like they could be turn 1 cards, but you really don't want to play them turn 1 because their effects are so important
Right.
later on in the game
Yeah.
that you really shouldn't use them on turn 1. And I feel this way about basically every card that we haven't talked about today. Is that you really only get like a 2-turn window snapshot to fire them off, where before there was a lot of flexibility. And I'm not saying that's a problem, but I am saying that I think that the window for making them good is significantly more narrow than it was before.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And I think that Give Into Your Anger is a very, very good example that I'm glad we're ending on in that regard, because I think that anytime you're like, should I play this really cool splashy effect turn 1? The answer is almost always no now.
I think that's fair.
I
Okay.
like Vader can't give in to his anger.
That's
You
yeah.
just get the suppression token, so that's,
Yeah.
I find that thematically funny.
Still gotta go first, which
He's still gotta go
sucks.
first, but he doesn't care about it. Like he knows what's going on. So
Yeah.
you know, it's
Maybe that is the big brand example, is like if you're talking about an infiltrating Vader, I don't know. Maybe you do just like want to know where he's going to be so that the rest of your deployments can adapt around that.
I definitely could see that.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it could be very powerful there.
Yeah.
I am
I'm
interested
clawing my way back.
to know why no one picked General Skywalker.
So I thought about it, and I mainly just didn't pick it because it's such a it's just kind of a boring card to me.
Yeah.
And like something can be very good and effective and also be not overly exciting. And I think General Skywalker is maybe the best example of a card like that. You know, giving an aim to 3 units, and then he gets inspired too.
Yes.
And then of course there's the innate fact about the fact that sometimes you're going to give yourself prepared positions if there's like a situation where you actually want to do that, which is not every time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's definitely a good choice. But it was more just, I feel like the excitement factor scared me away there.
It's boring, therefore.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think that also speaks to how I feel about turn 1 command cards in general, is that I don't think you should be going for splashy plays turn 1, even though the game is faster. It is generally better.
you know what's funny you say that. I'm always like, when I start the game, I'm thinking what I'm going to do, and then in my mind I'm always just play standing orders, right? Like it's like just pass. It's like what's the most like inactive thing I could do right now? And we both play standing orders. And like, it's like you gotta roll off now. It's
which, you know, when that effectively makes it so that there's a maximum of 4 turns to where you're like you have a higher chance of an interesting set of command card matchups between you and your opponent. So, you know, that's maybe a little bit of a loss. Like, we'll have to see whether once we see the rest of the reprints about whether there's other cards that have been sort of changed in some way to align with like the new version of Legion a little bit better. Because even though we're talking about all these command cards, is that there's probably at least a handful of command cards out there that are going to be good turn 1 plays that we just don't even know about because they're on like revamped characters. Like, you know, Jyn Erso may have an awesome turn 1 command card play when she gets re-released, because I think we already know she's going to infiltrate and all this other fun stuff.
Yeah.
So
Her three
right
pip
now
basically
she
doesn't have any text right now.
yeah. Right now she has her 3-pip sometimes can matter. Sometimes.
Yeah.
If you need to contest those POIs, very, very thrilling. That her 3-pip will sometimes matter, but that's just about it. Okay. Well, we're gonna be putting those lists up in a little survey so that the listeners can tell us who we thought won. Hashtag consider maybe more than just Mike for getting standing orders.
I just want to kick back in on the Jin Urso command card 3-pip thing.
Sure.
Because it actually never matters now.
What?
Because
But it prevents
on the
panicking.
card it says during this unit's activation.
Oh no.
Oh,
Right.
And this is what I mean. The card effectively has no text.
Well, okay, but
Oh.
so that still would matter for not losing actions, but it doesn't matter for the thing that all of us actually care about, which is being able to contest a POI.
Yes.
So it's not never Mike. It's just that it's 0.5% of the time. That it's actually okay. Jeez.
I just wanted to shout it out really quickly.
Just another Jin hater.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Be sure to flame Mike in the comments, Rebel players. All right, gentlemen, we're going to be now taking a break from the levity to hang our heads in sorrow as we return to Minis and Memorium. We took a break last week because there was nothing to memorialize, but now we do. And we will get started with the Separatist Specialist Pack. So that means that if you were into that generic T-Series or your little medic guy with the buzzsaws on the hand, or that repair droid that costs 22 points now, is that you better snatch it up from somewhere that's not Asmodee while you can, because that one is gone. Pike Foot Soldiers, we recently have been losing out on other Shadow Collective units. The Shadow Collective box has been sold at Asmodee for a while. Black Suns after that. And now it is Pike Foot Soldiers, which means that now at Asmodee, the only Shadow Collective specific list is the only Shadow Collective specific box is the Mandalorian Super Commandos. And if you bought even like a couple Shadow Collective boxes, then you're probably good on those. So sort of a rough time for that Battle Force right now. Hopefully they get some refills soon. Next, we have Darth Maul and his probe droids. We were just talking about how At Last was a cool turn 1 play if you're playing Sis Darth Maul. The really one of the only bonuses you can get out of playing Sis Darth Maul compared to the just sort of generally better Shadow Collective version is that you get a very cheap pro droid unit with him. But if you want to get that, again, you should go out and find it now because that one is gone from the store. He has left us. Mandalorian Resistance is the next one. And Clan Ren, I should say. This is just like with Lando, is that some of you out there may be wondering why this unit sold out because who's playing it. But clearly some people are out there. It's been out, I guess, long enough for us to run into this, but sadly, the Mandalorian Resistance is gone. And finally, this one, I was wondering if it would last all the way until Adepticon, but it is not, is that the original, we're going to make you buy some terrain that you didn't necessarily want play from a Star Wars Minis game. This was before any of us even had the idea or the concept of dioramas and Shatterpoint that you would be paying an extra $40 on and never put on the table. But the crashed escape pod, where we were asked politely, or some would say forced, at least for a while, to buy this piece of terrain if you wanted to get R2 and C3PO, who I promised were good back in the day, is that one is now also sold out. Once they came out with the Echo-based Defenders box, it became a lot easier and to get those guys without getting terrain you don't want. But now, since both those are sold out, is that has effectively locked out the extremely competitive unit known as R2D2 from the Asmodee store. So before we get to the other news, gentlemen, do you have any thoughts about the Fallen expansions?
Who bought R2D2 in the last 6 months? That's what I want to know.
Maybe it was for the terrain. You know, it's not a bad piece of terrain. It was hard plastic.
Do you remember the days of going to shops and everyone donated their crash pod to the store? So you look on tables, it's
Yeah,
like 8 crash pods.
There's so many
Maybe-
crashed escape pods.
Maybe somebody generous just bought them all and donated them to charity or something. That feels like the only reasonable explanation.
Well, but you know,
to
it's
that.
like it's the same thing as the Mandalorian Resistance, right? Is that like I would have
Mandos
I would
are
have
at least
accepted
cool.
the fact they're cool. That's true, but you know, it's like I don't know the Super Commandos are I think better looking minis personally, and so like if you and they're the ones that get a Mandalorian commander. So I don't know if you're liking the Mandos or cool zone, I would have expected that to sell out faster, but Clan Ren used to be a thing that people talked about, and then Sleeper Cell came out, and all of a sudden I haven't heard much about Clan Ren anymore.
Yeah, they're that good, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't quite drinking the Kool-Aid until I got hit for 12. And I went,
Oh, yeah.
"What?" Yeah, it's like
Yeah. I got to
triple
drinking
check.
that Kool-Aid real fast.
Yeah.
This just triggered something in my head that I actually wanted to discuss.
Sure.
So I've been playing a lot of Lord of the Rings lately. Lord of the Rings has a keyword called dominant on a lot of its expensive units, and dominant is a numbered keyword, so it's like dominant 2 or 4 or whatever. And it allows your expensive units to count multiple times for contesting POIs.
Okay.
And objectives and stuff. And this occurred to me because I think Clan Ren is a really like great example of a unit that if it counted twice for a POI, it would be much more reasonable.
We've seen that they've played with these mechanics a little bit already with Rebel Bad Batch.
Yes. Yeah.
The current, like the 2.6 version of Omega's ability seems to me way stronger than what the legacy version of that ability was, to where, where you
absolutely.
could you could poke out Omega to grab a box or something, but it didn't really feel like it would matter all that much. Now, like contesting range 1 is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. It's huge.
Like that one Michael of the game against Austin in the finals of LVO was because he could contest a point with Bad Batch at range 1. So yeah, maybe counting twice seems really good.
It does. I'm certainly not advocating like we give an entire faction, dominant 2 or whatever. But I do think for like, should a Jedi maybe have something similar to dominant? Yeah, maybe.
Over like thing of B1s.
That would go
just like
a long way to making your Inquisitors better.
And the Grand Inquisitor has that mechanic in Shatterpoint, actually, is like that's sort of the thing that he does, is that he wins ties.
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
And so, hey, yeah, maybe there's some potential there.
Yeah, the problem with when we're doing the command card thing is I would have said a few of the Inquisitors cards are nice because a lot of them, who cares? So you're just like, you can share tokens. You can
go ahead, you scamp.
Yeah, get out of here, you little rugrats. There's a couple good cards I have that you can just kind of blow a turn on. Who cares? But yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I didn't really think about that in the design space because I really hate that like Dooku shows up, but my one rebel trooper's like, oh, we're not scared of you, old man. But no, I'm down for that. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's like that's something that you might want to introduce kind of very slowly.
With a lot of testing, please. But so we just remembered the Fallen, but the good news is that we have the opposite of demise happening as well. Is that just like an hour before we started recording, so we have like some anti-stabcast energy there. Is that some news came out about the fact that pre-orders are up for the very first straight up reprint in like the new box format. Like most of us may know that we've seen the new box format already with Aqua Droids and Crab Droids, which are already out, but and we've known that all of these are on the way. We've seen the minis previews and whatever, but surprisingly out of left field, we have our first rebirth And so I think we're going to call this release resurrection. Maybe I'll work on the title, or let's call it minis minis in resurrection.
Wait. No one's ever really gone.
That's right. Oh wait, that's even better.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
perfect.
Thank Evan. This is why I brought you on. We're gonna call this segment "No One's Ever Really Gone."
No one's ever really gone.
And again, out of left field, I don't think any of us would have called this. If you had like 20 bets to make, I don't think many of us would have made this bet. But the Geonosian Warriors expansion was announced as the first as the first reprint, and this is actually sort of a news-making thing as well, because this is different from what the previous Geonosian Warriors box was, which was obviously you got like the 2 heavies and then the leader, and I forget whether there were like the standard 3 minis to make up the squad, or maybe there were 4.
There were seven models in the squad.
7. Okay, there were 7 models before. And so in order to account for the super squad, is that has now been expanded to the where this is the good news I'm going to give up front. The good news is that you now get 11 minis, which is the leader, the 2 heavies, and then
8.
you get 8 more just like regular old dude Geonosian minis. So that way, if you were one to want to run the Geonosian Super Squad, which, if you remember from a couple episodes ago, we rated pretty highly on this podcast as being a potential option, then you will save money if you're going to be like filling your list with those. The bad news is that because of the fact that this expansion, we know the cost now is that in US dollars, it's going to be $50, which I believe is up from $35 as being the cost of the previous one.
I think it might have been 40, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's probably 40 because it was released a little bit later. But what that means is that you still only get 1 leader and 1 of each heavy. And so you end up in this situation to where you get a better deal if you're going to be like dumping super squads in there, but you actually get a worse deal if you want to run regular units. And like I said, with Geonosians, is that I don't think there's going to be like a ton of people sort of griping about that, because the super squad is just mathematically very good on them. But like, let's compare that to if they take the same approach to a shore trooper unit squad,
or a clone,
or a clone squad. Mike was very passionate in his assault on the idea.
They're literally garbage.
On his assault on the idea, which I do agree with you. We have fun here of clone super squads. Is that if they make us if they make new players, I should say, because we're not maybe going to care as much, because if we don't want to buy those, we'll just use our phase 2s that we still have. But if they make them buy 6 $50 boxes, if they're a new player and they want to run, like, let's say there's a core set that comes with 2, but then it would be 200 plus tax dollars to sort of fill in the rest, whereas before it would have been significantly cheaper. That part does feel rough. So yeah, I'm curious about what you two think. Let's start with you, Evan. What do you think about sort of like if this is the new math? What do you think about it?
Man, as someone who's been playing for 6 years, I'm like, I don't care, because it's like I've already bought what I want to buy. But
right.
As someone new, it's tough because you have to think of it like 40K. Like a 5-man squad, you can run like 10-man squads of Space Marines, so you need 2 boxes for 1. They have like the opposite problem, right? Where you have to buy more to get the same thing you're looking for. In the current miniature game market, my pause, in the current, like, if you were just to look item by item on a shelf, it's a good deal for a model price, because I think price per model is like $5 a model, or it's probably lower than that.
It's roughly $5 a model.
So it's like that's pretty good as compared
per
to
model. It doesn't feel bad. I agree with you.
But yeah, if you want to per model, you're getting your money out of it, I think. And if you want to run those, sure. But yeah, like I don't know, man. Having to run like a super squad like stormtrooper or something, just kind of weird.
Well, you wouldn't have to, but like I
But
think
you'd almost feel obligated to because you bought the box, right? You've got all those models, and you can't make a side squad to your point. So it's like,
right.
it's like
And so
I don't
like
know.
the weird thing is going to be, it's like if you have a newer player and they're like, okay, let's say they want to build something that doesn't come in the starter set, and I want to have like a whole army of those. Is that even though from a minis perspective, is that they're going to have more than enough if they get like 2 boxes.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that they actually have to buy 3 if they A want to use the weapons, or B just have a legal squad, so that your leader
yeah,
min are, because it's important, right, that the leader mini is distinguishable from the rest of the squad,
yeah,
like which is why they look different, except in the ARF troopers, which at some point I guess we're going to have to figure that out
yeah.
because there's no actual single leader mini in that. We never talked about that, but uh, you know, so maybe this is going to create situations to where players, like, in order to save on cost, will sort of come up with ways to signify leader minis that are actually just like standard
Oh,
minis, and
yeah,
then
you get like kit
it's
bash,
going to
right?
be up to TOs about policing that, and then whether they're going to choose to do that. Like it seems like maybe a little bit uncomfortable, and I should say before we get to Mike, I should say this is one expansion, and so we don't necessarily know that this is the way they're going to handle the rest of the core units. I think that we can make an educated guess that it's how they're going to handle them. Like we've already seen that with Riot Control Squad, they went with the double KX instead of doing a personnel slot. But with the ARF troopers, even though that's not even a core unit, they had 2 extra guys that were a duo. And so like we're getting, it seems like we're consistently getting extra plastic compared to what we're used to in these boxes, but they do cost more. So Mike, what do you think about all this?
Um, I I I really don't have anything super nice to say about this. I think that
It's a safe space, Mikey. You can say what you want.
yeah, it's just I don't know what the thought process here is. I get that you want someone to be able to play all of the options for a unit out of the box. I think that is good. Um, I have some
Agree with that.
concerns about that in general, to be honest. What is going to happen when we get to the units that have specialist packs and stuff associated with them?
I've
You
been
know,
curious about that too, for sure.
and what about all the extra heavy weapon options and stuff? Like, are we going to get, you know, 15 models in the clone core set or clone infantry expansion where you've got your 4-man base unit, your extra guy, your extra 5 guys for the personnel upgrade, plus you got
Yeah,
your comms tech and your, medical guy and your repair guy, and then all the different heavy weapons you can put in that unit. Like that's a lot of miniatures.
yeah,
And I think the thing that concerns me the most is that a lot of the time, like somewhere in the realm of 20 to 40% of these boxes, you're not going to use the miniatures in them. I think is my
Yeah,
primary concern. As to before, you were like, I'm just not using the heavy weapon I bought, right? Like I have 3 heavy weapons that I could put in the squad. I only can put one in at a time. Therefore, I'm not using these 2 miniatures. Now it's I'm not using these 2 heavy weapons plus these 4 other guys. It's like half the product you're not using. Um, I think it might be a different conversation if the super squads were good across the board. I think, look, I will echo what you said. I think the Geonosians specifically are like a decent candidate for the super squad thing, but I really find it difficult to believe that it would have been that difficult to just throw a sprue in there with a second unit leader and the 2 heavy weapons here, and it would have been an amazing buy at that point.
which is the
Um,
other caveat, is that it is possible that the sprues may have some of that mix and matchiness that would allow for something like that. But
So I can say with a high level of confidence that
okay,
that is not the case because I put together 6 boxes of Geonosians already. The unit leader and both heavy weapons are on one sprue, and
mm,
the 4 guys are on another. And I heavily suspect what has happened here is they have just been repackaged so that you have 1 unit leader heavy weapon sprue and 2 normal guy sprues. And what they could have done is they could have just thrown another unit leader sprue in there. Now, obviously, that would have cost more money, but the cost of this box is already going up. I would much rather have paid $55 or $60 for a box that I could actually build 2 units out of
Yeah,
than paying $50 for a bunch of extra plastic. And
for sure.
that that's how I feel about it. I don't know. It's kind of at this point like a long line of like what is going on with these like logistical choices in releasing things at odd time intervals, and this is just kind of like the latest one. I don't know. That's
It
my shtick.
it does make it feel like, it's like we were this close sort of deal, because
Yeah.
if you think about there's 2 expansions specifically to where I'm thinking of Wookiees and Magnas, the new version of Wookiees, I should say, to where the leader and I think the bowcaster / the whip mini, like sort of like the basic part of the mini, is actually the same.
Yeah.
And so it actually did create situations to where you could like, it mattered more for Wookiees of the Battle Force, of course, but if you bought 3 Wookiee boxes, you could actually get 4 full units out of that. And like that felt really awesome to be like, it was like a buy 3 get 1 free sort of situation, and it felt like it was a very player friendly move to have, to where they were so mix and matchable. Most expansions haven't like gotten to that level of adaptability, to be fair, but that was one where it felt really good, and it would have been neat if that was the case here. And we should still continue to put the caveat is that we have seen the box and the completed minis, but as was actually proven by the a unboxing of Outer Rim Terrain that we saw today, is that the box doesn't actually necessarily always tell you exactly what's in there. 'Cause there's
Or
like
the
actually
Asmodeus store description.
right. So we do have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it feels like right now, like with this Geonosians, it's sort of like maybe a warning sign of the fact that if, let's say that this exact same thing happened with Rebel Troopers, then that's going to feel rough.
There's just like 8 models in each box
if you
you're
get
never
like
gonna
yeah,
use.
if you get several extra Rebel Trooper minis, and it was funny, like you talked about this idea of sort of collecting this cache of unbuilt minis. It's like we're all going to have the same experience that droid players had when the B1 expansion pack came out, and then everybody built the sniper. And then if you like to have a good time and wanted other people to know that you like to have a good time, you would build a rad cannon.
Yeah.
But then nobody would build the security droid or the OOM, because it was like these minis are bad anyway. And so like if you ran a list with like 6 sniper droids, that you probably had 6 brews that had 2 unbuilt droids that would just like gather dust in your drawer somewhere. And so now we get to share that experience with everybody.
I will say one nice thing about this
Sure. Good on you.
is that if you have already purchased 6 Geonosians,
Yeah.
this box is actually a lot of value, because this allows you to super squad 2
You
units.
can fill in 2 super squads at once. Yeah. That's true.
Which means that, for instance, I only have to buy 3 of these to super squad all my existing Geos, which is good, I guess. But I think that's really an existing player problem, which I'm not sure is like the problem.
What is not their target audience, right? Like, they with this relaunch is that they're really going to go for the, we're already caught in the net to a very large extent for them, and like the people they're worried about are the people who have heard that a re-release is coming and that they've been holding out on actually buying stuff because of that, which is arguably a smart move. But that may be a rude awakening. We're gonna have to see. But
my hope is that with the other factions, there is often several miniatures in the specialist packs that could be the unit leader. And in that,
that's a good point.
There is generally like the original unit leader, then like the captain or the commander or whatever, and it's sort of for the most part in competitive Legion, it's been accepted that you can kind of interchange those models as long as
Right.
everybody's on the same page. My hope is that those models are in those boxes so that you can actually make multiple units.
That's a really good call. I'm glad you thought of that because I think that does that does potentially soften the blow at the very least for like the original cores for each faction because the ones that got the expansion packs. If it's a snowtrooper, that's where I'm like, are they gonna have 2 pointing snowtroopers or are they gonna maybe? I don't think that they're gonna get the same treatment that clones got, where they have a commander like a clone commander slot, because
Probably not.
that slot has a clone trooper on it, and I think that they already said it's Republic only. But anyway, we will have to see, and we're gonna have more, more. They're never really gone. Segments in the future where we can cover the way that this is shaping. But now I think that we should be landing this plane. Evan Bulriss, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll be having you back. You are a bright and shining sun in the darkness that can sometimes build up when Mike and I are the only ones talking to each other. And so we really appreciate you being here. Is there
No,
is there
it's fair. I
any
mean, like,
anything you want to shout out before we let you go?
no. So I had a couple thoughts about the Geonosians, but I'll just boil them down to kit bashing's cool as long as you do a good job, and AMG seems to like that kind of thing. And it's just cool to me if you take so if you want to take that squad of guys and just make 2 4-man squads, and you just broke some models around, put some gun, maybe make that leader have double gun. I don't know,
That
whatever
is
you
a good
want to
point.
do.
I think the rule is 50% or more of the miniature must be original.
Yeah. So you can
and
just
so
you
you
could
could just
figure it out.
you could get a bunch of pointing fingers 3D printed.
Just to
and
give it a little
you
flair.
Can, yeah, maybe
I
that's
think you
something that
could
actually
probably
people
do
are
that.
gonna
That's
do.
fun. But yeah, no. I'm hopeful to see what happens coming up at Adepticon, and then in April, right? That's supposed to be the
Oh
rest
yeah,
of the
I should have
paragraphs.
mentioned that April 11th is the release date, which is interesting in its own right. So once we see more of these, I'll be curious about what those dates are going to be because that is pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's a
compared to
very
what
quick
we were worried
turnaround
about.
product.
Yeah. So
Turnaround time on a new product.
I'm excited to see what happens there, and I hope to see you at any events I run. I try to have a good time. I will make jokes, and I usually bring stickers or something. So that's my bribe to
stickers.
just you get the banana sticker for doing a good job and pre-registering.
Legendary Tia right here giving us banana stickers. Well, yeah, thank you again. We will have you back. And Mike, how do we land this plane?
Well, this has been the Notorious Scoundrels, Season 4, Episode 3. I'm Mike.
I am replacement lower level bad Evan.
And I'm okay, Evan. just all right, Evan.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.